Ritika, and the story that I have for you guys today, it's called The Animal Farm by George Orwell. So, by the title of the story, it might sound like it's a story for kids, but it's definitely not for kids. It has a very deep-seated message that we'll get to it towards the end of the video. So, the story revolves around this animal farm known as the manor farms, and there were all sorts of animals in the farm like cows, pigs, horses, sheep, ducks, hens, the usual kind of animals that you might find in a farm. And the owner of the farm was Mr. Jones. So Mr. Jones was not a good man. He was really careless, he was an alcoholic, and as a result, all the animals were really unsatisfied with the kind of treatment they were getting in the manor farms. They were always underfed, they were always getting whipped, getting hit by Mr. Jones for no good reason. So they were all really unhappy living there in the manor farms. So in the manor farm, there was this really old pig known as Old Major. Since he was the oldest among all the animals used to respect him. So one day, this old pig named Old Major gathered all the animals together for the purpose of having a meeting in which he said that he had a dream for all of the animals. He had a dream that he had a dream to create a world in which all of the animals were treated as equals. All of the animals were given respect, were given the kind of freedom that they deserve. So he tried to start a revolution among the animals. He tried to educate the animals and tell them that they are being not treated well and they all deserve to be treated really well. He also highlighted the various ways in which humans have always taken advantage of animals, how animals have always suffered in the hands of humans, and how humans have always benefited, and it is the animals that have always, being used up by men, and this has to stop. Old Major said that this has to stop, and animals need to now fight for their own rights. So, to sum up this whole meeting, he said that whatever walks on two legs is an enemy, and whatever walks on four legs or has wings is a friend. So the animals also kind of agreed to what Old Major was saying, and they had these ideas of revolution in their mind while they were attending this meeting. So Old Major also introduced this concept of comradeship, that all the animals from now on will refer to each other by calling them comrades. And he also introduced this song known as the Beast of England. This would be their song of freedom, and like an anthem for all the animals. So, after giving this really heartfelt speech and instilling a sense of revolution in the hearts of all of the animals, Old Major died after 3 days. And all the animals were really mourning the death of Old Major, but they also had this, zeal for having a freedom. So, after the death of Old Major, the animals started preparing for this revolution, for this fight for freedom. So there were these two pigs known as Snowball and Napoleon who started educating themselves and preparing for this war that they would go against human beings. So they started preparing for this and educating the rest of the animals, although some of the animals found it difficult to understand. So one fine day, Mr. Jones forgot to feed the animals, and the animals were really angry and hungry at the same time. We can say they were hangry. Lame joke, I know. So the animals were really hungry and they started helping themselves. They went into the room where the food was and they started eating themselves. When Mr. Jones got to know about it, he just dashed in the room with his men, and he started whipping the animals. This was more than what the hungry animals could take, and they also started fighting back. In the fights, the men had to just leave everything and run out of the animal farm to save their lives, because the animals went crazy and they started driving the men out of the farm. When the men were out of the farm, the animals were now extremely happy, because the kind of freedom that they had been planning for since so many days, they had finally got it. It was really like a surprise. It was very uncertain and sudden that they got this freedom. This was unplanned as well, but they were still really happy and enjoying themselves that finally they had driven all of the men out of the farm and they are now free to do whatever they wanted to do. So the next day, when the animal woke up, they were really happy now that they are free to do whatever they wanted to in the farm. So they also changed the name of the farm from Manor Farm to Animal Farm. Now the new name of the farm was Animal Farm. And they also set up 7 commandments for the animals to follow. So now all of the work that were there in the farm, the animals had to do it on their own. And the cows were ready to be milked. So some of the animals milked the cows, but they soon noticed that the milk that was obtained got missing. There were no traces of the milk to be found. Soon the animals forgot about it and went about doing the business. So all the animals were now working really hard in the farm, and there was this horse named Boxer. He used to work the hardest. His motto in life was everyone will work hard, but Boxer will work harder. He used to work with having this motto in mind, so he was really hardworking. So what the animals did was they used to have discussions on Sunday, and they would discuss and give suggestions as to what they could do to make the animal farm a better, a prosperous place to live in, and be beneficial to all of the animals, and work in favor of the animals. There were these two pigs, as I said, Snowball and Napoleon. They were the two most intelligent animals there, so they always used to discuss and debate about things as to what to be done, and they were always in this kind of rivalry. They were rivals to each other, and they did not seem to agree to one thing at a time. So there were also some kinds of animals who did not completely understood this concept of animalism and what were the commandments, and to make it easy for the other animals to understand, they came up with a line that said four legs good, two legs bad. And so the animals kind of understood, and the sheeps were always saying this thing, four legs good, two legs bad. So after a few days, the dogs in the farm gave birth to nine cute puppies. But Napoleon took the puppies away to raise them in a secluded place, in a separate place, away from the rest of the animals. This was really unusual, but no one seemed to bother. No one questioned him, and Napoleon started raising these nine dogs on his own. Soon the milk issue was also solved. The milk that went missing was later found to be a part of the diet of the pigs. The pigs used to have milk with oats and apples. This was like kind of weird for the animals that the pigs used to eat the milk, and the other animals used to get nothing. So there was a pig named Squealer. He justified this, saying that since pigs are the most intelligent animals in the farm and they are the ones using their brains, they need to have good food, they need to have a good diet so that they can use their heads for the benefit of the farm. Soon, this news of what happened in the manor farm spread to all the neighboring farms as well, and all of the neighboring farm owners were scared that their animals shouldn't end up doing something what had happened in manor farms. So they were also scared of this. So one day, Mr. Jones came back with a lot of men to fight the animals and get back his farm. But the animals this time were really prepared to fight Mr. Jones and the rest of the men, and they fought really bravely. All of the animals, Napoleon, Snowball, were all injured, but they fought bravely, and they were again successful in driving the men out of the farm. Since the battle started near the cowshed, this battle was known as the Battle of Cowshed. And after the battle was over, the animals who have fought bravely, they were given medals, and really they celebrated the victory really well. After a few days, Snowball suggested that they should build a windmill that would be really beneficial for the farm. So Napoleon was against this idea of making of the windmill, since this was Snowball's idea. Napoleon was always usually against whatever Snowball did or said or suggested. So the rest of the animals decided that they would vote whether they are against the making of the windmill or they are for the making of the windmill. But during the time when the voting was about to begin, suddenly nine ferocious, huge dogs came and started chasing Snowball. They chased Snowball out of the farm. Then the animals noticed that these were the same nine dogs that were secretly being raised by Napoleon. And now these dogs became the army of Napoleon. And since Snowball was not in the scene and there were no other intelligent animal who could debate against Napoleon kind of became the ruler, the leader there, and he was always guarded by these nine dogs from now onwards. Now that Snowball was out of the picture, Napoleon became kind of the leader, the ruler of the farm, and he was always guarded by these nine dogs that everyone was scared of. Under Napoleon's rule, the pigs were really enjoying an upper position in the farm. Now all of the Sunday meetings were cancelled and there were no debates. And Napoleon said that now there need not be any debate and only the pigs will decide what is right for the farm. So all the animals were kind of confused, but they were, not intelligent enough to fight for their own right or say that this is something that is wrong. And to this, Boxer the horse, who was really hardworking, said that. Napoleon is always right and I will work harder. So the other animals also agreed to this. Napoleon sat with other pigs in a raised position from now onwards with Squealer, his assistant, and the 9 dogs at defense. So now that from then onwards, Snowball was never seen again. So after a few days, Napoleon suggested that they would have to make a windmill. All the animals quite vividly remember that few days back when Snowball suggested, Napoleon was very much against making of the windmill. So why is he doing this now? So later in the evening, Squealer the pig comes back to give his justification that it was actually Napoleon's idea only to make the windmill, and Snowball very slyly stole the idea of making of the windmill, and it has always been Napoleon's idea of making the windmill. So the animals were kind of confused also, but they had no other option but to believe what Napoleon and Squealer was saying to them. So now the animals started working really hard to make the windmill. So when winter came, the farm also started having food shortage. So Napoleon suggested that they would have to get into some kind of business with humans or with the neighboring farms. But to this, the animals quite vividly remember that one of the rules said that no animals should get into business with humans. But to this, Napoleon was not able to give an answer, and very quickly the sheep that were around Napoleon started saying 2 legs bad, 4 legs good, and they went on saying this, and so none of the animals got the answer that they wanted. So Napoleon got this man who would get into business, would get animal farm and the rest of the farm involved in the business. So this man used to come, and Napoleon very slyly wanted to show the rest of the world that Animal Farm was not facing any food shortage. So what he used to do was he used to fill drums with sand and cover the surface with grains to show that all of the drums were full. Napoleon used to get this done so that the middleman who was coming to the farm for visits would go around saying that there were no food shortage in Animal Farm, and Animal Farm all the animals were really happy. But in reality, the animals started having food shortage. They were kind of starving but working really hard. So one day, due to heavy winds, the windmill that was half made by now fell, and it fell during the night. So none of the animals actually saw what happened, but they started blaming Snowball for this. And the main blaming game started from Squealer's side, and all of the animals started chanting the same thing, that this must have been done by Snowball, and Snowball was the one who was behind destroying the windmill. So whenever anything went wrong, the blame directly went to Snowball. If the animals were having difficulty in sleeping, it was Snowball who was disturbing them. If a window broke, it was Snowball who broke it. If anything went missing, it was Snowball who must have came at night and disappeared that thing. So one day Squealer came and he revealed to the rest of the animals that they had taken up an investigation, and that investigation, it had come to their knowledge that Snowball had been an ally with Mr. Jones since the beginning. But the animals were not convinced by this, since they very clearly remembered that Snowball had always been in their side. He has always worked hard in planning the fight for freedom, in making of the windmills. Snowball has always been inside, it has always been towards the animal side. But Squealer very cleverly convinced them, saying that Napoleon has been a part of this investigation, and he himself has found out the result that Snowball from the very beginning has been friends with Mr. Jones, and he was the one backstabbing all of the animals. Firstly, the animals were not convinced by it, but Squealer manipulated the animals into believing this, that whatever Napoleon said was true, and all the animals have to believe in what has been said, because it has been proved by an investigation. Soon Napoleon and the other pigs started living in the house where Mr. Jones used to live, and they also used to sleep in the bed where Mr. Jones used to sleep. So the animals were kind of confused because they very clearly remember in the seven commandments it was written that no animal should sleep on a bed. But Squealer took them to the board where the rules were written and he clearly read it out that the rules said that no animal should sleep on a bed with sheets. This was what the rule was. The animals were kind of confused, but Squealer very cleverly manipulated the animals to think that they must have got the rule wrong in the first place, and this was what the correct form of the rule was. So now Napoleon started living a really lavish life with the rest of the pigs, and he was having the time of his life, using the things that Mr. Jones used to, eating out of very posh crockery, eating good meals for the day, eating good meals during the day. So Napoleon also started getting into traditions with the neighboring farms, but the animals quite clearly remember this was to get into any kind of business with men. But there was Mr. Squealer who was on foot to explain to the animals that done by Napoleon for the well-being of the farm and how Napoleon is the best ruler that they could ever wish for. So Animal Farm was once again attacked by humans, and this time also the animals fought really bravely, although they were unfed and starving this time as well. But after the fight, the animals won this time as well, and of course Napoleon was awarded the highest honorary award, and Napoleon also threw a victory party for the rest of the animals. And so after a few days, the pigs discovered alcohol in Mr. Jones' cellar. So the pigs started consuming alcohol as well. When the animals got to know about this, they clearly remember this rule as well that no animal should consume alcohol. But Mr. Squealer also had a justification for this. He came to the animals and said that the rules that they had been followed. One, he said that they should have a look at the rule board again because the rule clearly says that no animal should have alcohol to excess. The animals were again confused and surprised about the rule. So winter came and there was again a lot of food shortage in the animal farms, and the ration, except for the pigs and the dogs, the ration remained the same. Early in the morning, the animals used to get of barley cooking from the kitchen of Mr. Jones that was now used by the pigs, and there was a rumor that all of the pigs were now getting barley and a pint of and a glass of beer for breakfast. So one day, Boxer, the horse who was really hardworking, he was working in the fields making the windmill when suddenly he fell down. All the animals rushed to help him, and soon it was brought to Napoleon's notice that Boxer immediately needs medical help. So Napoleon called for a van that looked really suspicious, and Boxer was taken away. Later in the day, Squealer comes back and says that Boxer died on the way while reaching to the hospital. But what actually happened was Napoleon sold Boxer. So under the same conditions, years passed, seasons came and went by, but nothing changed. The pigs and the dogs were the ones who were enjoying a luxurious life, and the animals, the normal animals, were still suffering. This was what had been happening since so many years. Now that Napoleon and Squealer and all the other elderly animals have gone old, there were a lot of new animals that were there in the farm, and soon there many years passed. All of the animals kind of forgot the seven commandments, what old Major had said, who was Snowball, who was Boxer. You know that with time all of the animals moved on and Animal Farm also moved on. One day Squealer took away the sheep, and after a few hours they came back, and the other animals noticed that Squealer was walking on two legs, and behind him, all of the other pigs were walking on two legs. All of the animals were in sheer shock. After the parading pigs, the sheep came and they started chanting, "Four legs good, two legs better, four legs good, two legs better, four legs good, two legs better." All of the animals were in complete shock. The animals couldn't believe what they were seeing, and they rushed to see the new commandment board that had only one rule now, and it said all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than the others. From then onwards, the pig, that now that they were already walking on two legs, they started wearing clothes, and they also started carrying whips to the field where they would hit the other animals to make them work harder. And so the other animals were again trapped in this whole spree of suffering. One day, some animals heard a lot of laughter and cheering coming from the house where the pigs used to live. So decided to go and have a look as to see what was happening there. They saw that all the pigs and the humans were having a grand party together and they were raising toast to each other, having a great time there. They were playing games, hanging out together, banging the tables, cheering for each other. But the animals now noticed something really strange. What had happened to the faces of the pigs? The creatures looked from pig to man, from man to pig, from pig to man again. But already it was impossible to say which was which. So that was the end, guys. Now, coming back to the deep seated message in this story was, what if I tell you now that that all of the characters were actually based on real people? All of the characters in the Animal Farm were based on real people. Yes. So George Orwell, through this story Animal Farm, has showcased the conditions of Russia during the Russian Revolution. He has very cleverly showed us the concept of communism, how communism sounds really good on paper, but in a real practical world, it has a lot of setback that are very clearly mentioned in Animal Farm, in the story Animal Farm. So back in the days, this story was really controversial, and George Orwell had to change his country, and this story was published in some other country, not in Russia, and this is one of the most controversial stories of that time because it very vividly showcased the face of Russia back in those days. So that's all for today, guys. If you enjoy watching, please like the video. Thank you.